All right. Well, I'm excited to be here. I was totally inspired by the previous speaker. Thank you so much for sharing your story. What an inspiring story. And I just love the fact of advocacy for our students in special education. In the K-12, we deal with those students, and we want to make sure that they are being successful. So there's definitely the need for advocacy. So thank you so much for your leadership in that area. So today I'm excited to talk about breaking barriers, empowering women in leadership. Before I get started on my journey, I just want to set the stage for equity and access, and just talk about a little bit of research as it relates to that. As a woman of color, we face biases and microaggressions in the workplace, through interview processes, and just everyday life, unfortunately. We've definitely come a long way and made great progress, but there's definitely still work to do. So just wanting to highlight that, because I can't tell you my journey without telling you the challenges that I've faced in getting to where I am. So, what is implicit bias? Implicit bias is very much similar as unconscious bias. It's the iceberg. At the very top, you can see all of the great attributes of a person. But down below, that unconscious bias, you'll never know. You'll never know their deepest thoughts. You'll never know their feelings about various things, because that's under the water, as you would look at that picture. So we define implicit bias as the attitudes or stereotypes that affects the understanding, action, and decisions in an unconscious manner. So biases and barriers, women face it in every sector of the industry. There are various things that might be, we need someone who's going to be tough. Well, you don't think I can be tough? There are microaggressions to say, why are you getting so emotional about that? Would you say that to a male, or are you just saying that because I'm a woman? I've never met a woman executive. Okay. Are you a worker in the cafeteria? Those types of things and microaggressions we hear and in various places. Also through the interview process, which I'll talk about a little bit further down, we face biases and barriers in that work as well. So implications of bias. Sometimes as women, we're branded as bossy and assertive. Women have negative biases in the workplace. There's competency versus likability. You may be smart, you may be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but do we like you? And I've heard the comments like, I like you. And that gives me pause, because why do you have to make that statement? Recruitment, mentoring, sponsoring, and promotion all plays a part in bias. So that kind of builds the foundation as we talk about it. The goal is we want women to exceed in every area of our industry. We don't want microaggressions. We don't want unconscious bias to play a role in how women lead or their ability to lead. When I'm looking for a job, my prayer is, let it be a fair and equitable process. That's all I need. If that is the level, I can do what I can do to get the job. But that's what we need in the workplace. So just building that foundation. So now we're going to get into our strengths, my journey, and how we harness our strengths. So I'll tell you a little bit about my leadership journey. So I'll start off with my why. It is so important to identify your why. Why are you doing the work you're doing? It needs to match. So as a young lady growing up in Mississippi in a low socioeconomic family who didn't have all of the things that someone in a medium to moderate family would have, but I had parents who loved me, who cared for me, who set structures in place for me to be successful. Could they help me with all of my homework? No, but they did their very best to find someone who could. And because of that, I know that every child who looks like me came from the same background that I came from, that they can be successful. Because every parent who brings a child to school, that is their greatest asset. They love that child. Regardless of what they can provide to the child, they love them. They're bringing us their best on a daily basis. And I just feel my why is that seat at the table to make sure that every child, regardless of their socioeconomic status, regardless of their parents' educational background, it's my job to be that voice of reason. It's my job to impact policy. It's my job to impact instruction. It's my job to impact how we spend our dollars and ensuring those dollars get to our most neediest students. So that is my why. That connects me to what I do every single day. And how I do that, again, is talking about our dollars. How are we using our dollars? How are we making sure that our students get those opportunities they wouldn't normally get? Making sure we have programs that connect them to the workforce when they graduate. Making sure they get opportunities to have field trips and things of that sort. So that is my why. That leads me every day. When the job gets tough and the tough gets going, I go back to, why am I doing this? And as Dr. Marco stated, I'm in the business department, but I don't just live there every day. Every opportunity that I get, I'm going to a classroom. I'm going to a school. I make facility walks exciting. The business department people think this lady's crazy, but anything I can do to connect to the school site, to the students, that's how I'm leading in doing my work. Because again, it goes back to my heart, and my heart is students and leading them and leading the rest of the team as well. So I came from Grenada, Mississippi, born and raised. At the age of 18, 1 week after I graduated, I got on a Greyhound bus and I left the state of Mississippi and said, goodbye, see you later. We lived in a trailer most of my time there. Probably, when I moved to high school, then we moved into a house. But my earlier years were in a 2-bedroom trailer with my 2 brothers and myself. And you'll see my mom and dad there in the middle. My dad was a pastor. My mom stayed at home. So I am a woman of faith. I can't make it without my faith and my belief. That is who I am. And my father instilled that into me. So as we go through this presentation, you may hear some quotes that may be religious or whatever, but I'm not here to change your beliefs, but just telling you who I am as a person. So I got on that Greyhound bus and I ended up downtown Los Angeles. So in Mississippi, there was only black and white. So when I got downtown LA, I go, OMG, this is another world. I was so excited to see people of all walks of life and backgrounds. It was amazing. So I ended up going to Los Angeles City College because my parents didn't know anything about a college application or financial aid. But that last few months of high school, I got it together. And I ended up coming to California, starting at LA City College. And after leaving LA City College, my job transferred. So I ended up going to Cerritos Community College. And once I finished at Cerritos Community College, I graduated from Long Beach State. I was so excited, English major. My next educational stop was at Dominguez Hills, and I graduated with my master's degree in multicultural education. Because again, fascinated me. I wanted to make sure as a teacher that I could meet the needs of all of my students, and that program really helped me to do that. And finally on my journey, well, not finally, but I earned my doctorate degree. It's an EDD, not a PhD, but EDD in higher education because I wanted to look at higher ed because I'd been in K-12 forever. So I really enjoyed the program, and it prepared me for helping our students understand what they need to get to a higher level. So in a nutshell, in order to become a CBO, I've done lots of training. I've done the CASBO program. I even went back and got an accounting certificate. It's like, I'm an English major. What in the world I'm doing in accounting? You know, it was just unbelievable how I got to this journey of chief business official. And you know, it was so interesting. In my new role, I've been having these listening sessions with everybody. And I had a listening session with someone in my fiscal services department, and I asked everybody the same 3 questions. And the last question, what advice would you give me as a CBO? So this lady, she thought and thought and thought, and she goes, I don't know. She says, well, when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, it doesn't look like you're on the track to being a CBO. It looks like you're on the track to being an educator. I was a little taken back by that because number one, have you read the job description of a CBO? So I thought that was just very interesting that she judged me. And she said, there was a lot of words in your bio. In the business department, they don't really like a lot of words. Just give me the numbers, right? So I was taken back by her critique of my journey. But what I can tell you that, you know, all things work together for the good. And I just feel that I'm a unique chief business officer. I am rare. There are some out there like me who have the instructional background and the business background, but it's rare. And that person who comes with both, we're powerful. Because guess what? We know the instructional program. We know what principals need. We know what teachers are dealing with. We know we better push that purchase requisition through to get those buses there and get the kids on the field trip, even if the teacher's late submitting it. We know what it means when we've been on both sides of it. So I'm just thrilled that I can use my expertise in that way. So I will say my scripture for the foundation of my life through my journey, it plays a huge role, keeps me grounded, keeps me believing, keeps me hopeful. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And this has been true my entire career, my entire life. It grounds me in who I am today. So here's my solid rock, my husband of 32 years, my best friend, my prayer partner, my thought partner. We are empty nesters, and I couldn't do any of the things I do without my husband. He is the rock of our family. We have 3 sons and 5 grandchildren, so I'm extremely excited and blessed for these young men to fill our lives and with our grandchildren. So these are some older pictures of the grandchildren. They're bigger now, but these are some of the pictures of our grandchildren. And my granddaughter called me this morning, the one in the middle with the Wakanda background. She called me because her birthday's on Sunday. And I said, I'm getting ready to give this keynote and I got to get dressed. And she goes, you're beautiful. You don't need to put on any makeup. You look just fine. So that's my joy. That's the joy that I have. And I go, I'm going to be talking about you in this speech. And she goes, what? Why? You're going to talk about me? Yes, because you're a part of my story, part of my life. So who am I? I am a daughter, a sister. I'm an aunt, mother, wife, friend, mentor, and sponsor. That's who I am. When people ask me who I am, what do? I don't tell them I'm a chief business officer. I just want to tell them who I am. That's the work I do every day as a chief business officer. I don't want your title to judge me either positively or negatively, because I'm not the title. This is who I am. This is what makes up who Marguerite is as a person. So let's get into talking about building resiliency, looking at how we define it, lessons I've learned from resiliency, and how to have coping strategies through the process. And I hope okay. Nope, didn't want to do that. I want to make sure that I am projecting high. Okay. So grit and resiliency. As a person in leadership, regardless of what your role is, whether you are male or female, you will need grit and resiliency, because there's so much that we have to deal with in these high-level positions that if we don't have it, it could hinder our growth. So just want to talk to you about resiliency. Refers to the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt to changes, and how to keep going. I can tell you that has what's kept me through my journey over the last 27 years, resiliency. You have to have the emotional strength to manage the stress and to bounce back from difficulties. Because if you haven't experienced them, keep on living, because life doesn't disappoint with those opportunities. You must have the ability to adjust to new circumstances, new solutions, new problems. Because in my career, I've had to do that on numerous occasions, and you'll hear that in a little bit. But what has served me so well is my ability to have a positive outlook. That comes from my dad. He taught me that all things are going to work out for my good. And regardless of what it looks like, keep on going, get up, keep going. So grit, on the other hand, is characterized by sustaining passion and perseverance to getting to your goal. Regardless of what you're facing, the grit will help you to get there, to make your long-term goals. In my life, in my career journey, I've had to be persistent. I've had to stay committed to the goal, regardless of the obstacles and the challenges that I faced. My work ethic is strong, and I'm determined, and I come 100 every day. And you have to also focus on growth. You have to be willing to learn from failures and continuing to strive for improvement. I'm not the same educator I was 27 years ago. You have to be willing to learn from your failures, your mistakes, and keep moving forward. So my career journey started off as a tutor in the classroom, working with a teacher, tutoring students in small groups. Then I moved into being a substitute teacher. Then I was given the opportunity to actually be a certified teacher. After a few years, about 5 or 6 years as a teacher, I moved up into a quasi-administrative role called project specialist. And there I oversaw Title I budgets, and I think that really began to spark my interest about the budget. My next job was a program manager, was more of the same. Again, dealing with budgets, making sure students in Title I programs got the services that they needed to be successful. Next, I became a high school assistant principal. 2,800 students at my high school. It was overcrowded. You don't see those numbers today. Schools are now 300, 400, 500, 600, but not 28 because we've built more schools. Time has passed. Then I had the opportunity to be a middle school principal. 5.5 years at a middle school. I loved working at the middle school as a principal. Amazing job. I've sat in the seat of a director, senior director, and now my role of chief business officer. I get to see the entire operation of the district on the other side. We pay all the bills. We pay all of the employees. We make sure everyone gets their health benefits and retirement programs and things of that sort. And we work really hard to balance the budget. Unfortunately, in the times we're living in, that's becoming more and more difficult with expiring COVID dollars that we were given, which is now resulting in layoffs and school closures and a whole lot of other stuff that I'm not happy about. So leading change, we as women in leadership and all of us, we have to be powerful change makers. We have to learn from women and other leaders who are out there doing the work. And then we have to be that catalyst for change, making a difference in our organization. So let's talk a little bit about that and how my journey goes there. So as I stated, over the last 27 years, resiliency and grit has definitely been the foundation of how I moved through my career with challenges. The first situation that I dealt with, and I'll share just 3 things. As a program manager, it was an administrative job, probably about a $30,000 increase. And I got there in August, and by December, this was hard financial times. I was told that I would be reassigned to the classroom. There were 18 managers being affected. And it was extremely challenging looking for a new job. Again, I'm from Mississippi. I don't have the capital status of knowing a lot of people in the educational system, being able to call my dad and say, hey, Dad, can you talk to a friend to help me get a job? Or I didn't have that social capital. So it was really hard work and just being persistent in my work. So right before the school year started, I was able to get a new job in August. Lots of job interviews, lots of, just getting out there and making it happen. But this was very challenging as a new administrator being told you're going to go back to the classroom. No one wants to hear that. Just bought a new home, all of those things now being impacted because of job loss. I'm losing $30,000. I'm going back to the classroom. So again, multiple interviews and multiple rejection letters, facing reality and not having that privilege or network to support me. So this quote says, some days she has no idea how she'll do it, but every single day she gets it done. And, we have to remember, we have to accept the sunshine and the rain. There are going to be good days and there are going to be challenging days. And that's something that I've learned in my career. And I think that I handle it with much more grace than I did 15, 20 years ago. But remembering that if I accept the sunshine and warmth, then I must also accept the thundering and lightning and still believe that everything's going to work out okay. My second incident in my career that I want to highlight is I was a middle school principal, hired a close friend from the previous school in which I worked, and brought that person over. And throughout the process of time there, over the 5.5 years, she became very destructive. Tried to ruin my reputation, wrote a letter to the superintendent. This was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. I'd never been through anything like this before. She tried to ruin my reputation, but I had to lean into forgiveness. I had to forgive and say, this happened for a reason. There's a lesson for me to learn from it, and I have to move forward. And not everybody may experience this, but on some level that it does happen, it could break you to your core. But you have to believe that everything's going to work out and the best is to come. And getting to forgiveness and healness, it's not an easy process, but it's the best process, the best steps that I know that I've taken that's really helped me to move forward and not stay in it. Because if you stay in it, you don't get to see the beauty that's going to come out of it. And here's a quote that also helps me. Don't be afraid to start over. This time you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. So number 3, this is very challenging. And if you ever aspire to be at a cabinet level, just know the politics of this job can be overwhelming. When I got into administration, I didn't know what politics really meant. I was a teacher in the classroom. I had been, principal and all of that. But politics, is a whole nother bear. I remember the board member in Los Angeles Unified saying, there is no office that has politics written on it, but it's everywhere. Everywhere. And at this level of leadership, you are now dealing with superintendents and you're dealing with the board. And as much as it hurts me to say, but sometimes everyone is not in the job really for students. Sometimes they're there because of their own ambitions of what they want an organization to be. And it's not always about doing the right thing. Sometimes it's doing the political thing. And that's a challenge. So in this third example, I was appointed to a position. And right after that, the superintendent was let go. So I'm going, okay, hired, great superintendent. Now the board has fired the superintendent. And someone comes in who I don't know. And within a year, within the next 12 to 16 months, the superintendent wants to bring in another cabinet member to replace me. And I said, okay, well, I want to respect your decision to do that. I have to, number one, take care of myself and look for next steps as it relates to my career. And one thing, when this happens to you, you can't get angry and say, why are you doing this to me? I'm the best person for the job. I wanted the superintendent to know that it's your decision to make. I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. I would like to have a letter of recommendation as I move forward. And the reorganization took place under that leadership. But I got out there, I applied, I had the best letters of recommendation, I had the best verbal recommendations from people when folks called. So I was prepared. because I knew that I was doing great work, and I knew that this decision wasn't really about me. Did it hurt? Yes. Did it disrupt? Yes. It turns your life upside down when this is not something that you've planned out. And when we get onto executive leadership positions, we have to be aware of what the politics is around the position that we're in. The good news is it all worked out. I got to a place where I needed to be. I got to a place of healing and learning. Throughout these various processes and disruptions in life, I find that getting to forgiveness and healing and moving forward is the best recipe for success. We got to keep moving. So the complex journey from the doubt to opportunity, because once that happens and once the superintendent or anybody tells you that your job is changing, we're bringing in a new person, you feel like, what? I'm not good enough. But we are good enough. You'll hear them say, we don't know you, but if you take this lower job and we get to know you, then it might be an opportunity for us to promote you later. I see you as the next state superintendent, but you don't see me as the next principal or director in your district. So all of those things will come at you when you're in between career opportunities. But I'm here to tell you that you have to put aside the doubt and you have to believe in yourself that you'll get to the next level, you'll get to the next step of where you want to be. It is so important to rise strong. I've had setbacks, and I've learned to reflect on those setbacks. During another setback that I had, I really had to say, if this is happening, it's happening for a reason. And I need to reflect on what lesson do I learn from this. I learned from experience. When you're going from one job or district to another, you have to be very careful in doing what you did in that other district in your new district, because it might be different. The strength you had there may not be the strength that's needed in your new environment. So it's going to be important to set new goals. Cultivate a system of support. Through all of my challenges, I've been able to have an awesome support system. Someone I can pick up the phone and call and give me advice and say, hey, do it this way, do it that way, look at this opportunity, look at that opportunity. Take action. Get out there and make sure that you're branding yourself, that you're becoming an expert in an area. And then the most important, maintain a positive outlook. As hard as it might be, we have to continue to believe and know that the best is yet to come. And nothing that has happened to you is a surprise to God. God will still get you where you're supposed to be. I ran into this quote on one of my social media platforms. And sometimes when we have setbacks, when I have setbacks, I'm thinking like I'm missing out. I'm not moving as fast as I want to move. And this quote just really spoke to me when I saw it. And I just have to remember that I'm going to get to where I need to be. It may be a little bit slower, but I will get to where I need to be. And none of the setbacks that I'm facing can stop that. So the importance of women in leadership. If we look at the current landscape, we'll look at the percentages of women in leadership. We'll look at the diversity in leadership, and we'll talk about how we need to pave the way for future leaders and empowering young women who are coming up to be leaders. So there's definitely underrepresentation in executive leadership roles. There are barriers to advancement. There are systematic barriers, as I shared at the very, very beginning, including biases in hiring practices and lack of mentorship opportunities contribute to underrepresentation. As I stated, I'm coming from a family that don't have privilege, that are not influential. So I'm really needing to rely on a system that's fair, just, and equitable. And I need to make sure that in my seat of position that I remove these barriers for those that are coming behind me. So diversity initiatives, we need to look at ways on how we can increase diversity in leadership. Right now, I'm the only woman of color at the district office where I work. There are, I'll say, African American leader, not just women of color. They're women of color. But when I look around the room, I don't see anyone else that looks like me. And the important thing is when our superintendents begin to say, hey, we see that, let's make sure we're doing something to have more recruitment, to remove barriers and allow for more diversity, that's a win. That's a plus. And the other thing is when we do get in position, sometimes we're not always set up for success. There's research out there called the glass cliff. And this is an informal barrier that keeps women out of upper management. The research says that more women of color are likely to be chosen to lead in leadership roles when there's a crisis. Well, if there's a crisis, we know that she can get us out of it. We know she can do it. She's organized, and that person can get us out. But what usually happens is there's significant downsides to getting into a position where you are in a crisis mode all of the time. I've been in a position like that. You're trying to change an organization, and we alone can't change an organization. There are so many systemic barriers to change. Culture is one. I was talking to a principal last week, and he was sharing a story with me of a successful principal who was hired at the high school, but was gone within 12 months. Less than 12 months, that principal was gone. Came in with excellent ideas, excellent strategies, but the culture was not ready. The culture was not ready for him. So they began to talk about him, talk to the union about him. He didn't have the backing from upper management, and he was gone. And those are some of just one example of how it is when you're getting into a position where it's crisis and you don't have that backing from the upper management. It comes with significant downsides, including stress, burnout, and it can even derail your career. So we have to be very thoughtful and very strategic on various jobs that we're willing to walk into. And we have to make sure that we do our research. We have to make sure that we're researching the organization and company in which we're going to begin new work. So breaking barriers for the next generation. How do we do it? Mentorship and sponsorship. This is so very important because coming from Mississippi, I was just blessed to run into leaders who were acted as mentors and even as sponsors. Now, what is a sponsor compared to a mentor? A sponsor is someone who shares your name in the room with other influential people who might be looking for a new employee. So that person is willing to say your name. Hey, well, have you ever thought about, XYZ? That person is really hardworking in this area. I would want to sponsor any day. Mentors are amazing. I love mentors, but a sponsor can help you get to the next level in your career. And it doesn't matter the ethnicity of your sponsor or mentor or the gender. You can learn from both. Make sure that you take a up-and-coming leader to various trainings with you to help create opportunities for learning. Also, inclusive recruitment practices. When I sit at the table and help to write a job description, I always want to look at using words for preferred versus required. Because if it's required, that could eliminate people from the position. But preferred is we definitely want them to have it, but if they don't, it doesn't eliminate them from the interview process. Being visible and being a role model is awesome, and it's will help break those barriers as new leaders come into the field. And then providing resources. It could be literature about a job or certain skill. Just making sure that there's access to resources as well. So as we're getting ready to come down toward the end, tools for empowerment. Exploring valuable tools, online platforms, books, mentorship, and growth are going to be very important as we are looking to empower ourselves and as we empower the next generation. So a call to action. We're wanting to encourage our women leaders and our to step up and take on leadership roles and embrace your potential. And supporting each other. This is really important that we support each other and getting involved. So managing your reputation is really important. Sometimes it's a good idea to just Google yourself and see what people are saying. Google your picture, see what picture is out there online. Never ignore the negative. Always reflect on the negative because it could really help you to get to your next level. They may have meant it for bad, but it may turn around and be for your good. So don't ignore negative comments. Use that as an opportunity to reflect. Respond to negative comments in a professional manner. If I had got angry with that superintendent who said he wanted to bring in another cabinet leader, I don't think it would have gone well for me. But because I turned it around, I was positive and say, hey, it's your prerogative to bring in someone else if you want to do that. Listen for the positive comments as a gauge to making change. The positive and the negatives, I would add. All of that's going to help you in your journey. Your circle should want you to win. Those friends of yours, those folks that you are associating with, they should want you to win. Your circle should clap the loudest when you have good news. If they don't, get a new circle. I found this quote on social media as well. Here is a way to build relationships and network. At some point or another, I've been involved in all of these various agencies. AXA is amazing. Every single year, they roll out new academies. So look to AXA to find academies in whatever work you want to do throughout your journey. They will get you there. I've completed at least 4 to 5 of their academies. I started out in their business academy when I started thinking about going into the business office. That was the first academy that I attended. The one that I'm missing is CASBO. CASBO is very, very important. After I left Access Academy for School Business, I went to the CASBO 18-month business leadership program. Truly amazing. After I completed their 18-month program, I went through FICMAT. It was a 12-month mentorship where I learned and I had a mentor for 12 months. CASA is the one that got me thinking about business because they said not everyone is going to be in ed services. So you need to make sure that you spread your knowledge across several buckets. And even though I'm an English major and I go, I don't want to be sitting and counting pennies and this and that and the other. When I began to talk to people about being a CBO, they said, you can do it. And being a CBO is not doing the accounting. CBO is managing all of the various divisions within your department and providing support to those leaders. CALSA, as well as CALSA Women, are two, it's one organization, but their focus on women in leadership is amazing. I strongly encourage you to check out all of these networks. And if you're wanting to advance your career, start networking. Just get out there, work the room, introduce yourself, have conversations. All of these things will prove to be very beneficial as you're moving up the ladder. So, conclusion, as we think about our strength, resiliency, and change, these three areas is crucial to who we are becoming. It is so important to lead with confidence. It is so important to develop resiliency, because as I shared my stories of moments of uncomfortable and moments of disappointment and moments of hurt and transition, you have to be willing and able to overcome any challenge. Because if you sit there and you stew over it, it doesn't get you to the next level. You have to develop the resiliency to get back up again and keep going. Be the change you wish to see. It goes back to the why. Leading with your why. If you lead with your why, everything else will follow. Your mindset. You have to view difficulties in a new light and overcome hardships by being truly resilient. As Duckworth has said, I learned a lesson I'll never forget. The lesson was that when you have setbacks and failures, you can't overreact to them. You have to have a positive mindset. Don't forget to get out there, ask questions, share your experiences with others, collaborate, and network. All of those things will help you. And then lastly, have patience with your journey. It may take some time to reach your goals, but you will. Keep up the hard work. You will get there. Believe in yourself. Don't give up. Remember, good things take time. They don't happen overnight. And you can reach me at my email, and you can also search me on LinkedIn or Twitter at Dr. Marguerite. It has been my pleasure sharing my story with you and encouraging you to be the best you can be as you walk this journey of your own life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. There are a couple of comments in the chat. Dr. Scott writes that as you were talking about the organizational culture, he is responding to that in the chat. He says, thus the importance of person to organization fit as well, ensuring that when interviewing, you are interviewing them to ensure that you fit within the culture of the organization. So that notion of reciprocity.
Absolutely. I definitely agree.
And Nina Russell writes, 100% possible to talk to individuals who work at the organization. You were talking about checking yourself out, like Google yourself, look at your photo, and then talking to the people within the organization as well. Oftentimes, inclusivity looks good on paper, but the reality may be different.
Yes.
And then lots of wonderful thank yous. Dr. Williams, you have brought a wonderful concept to this audience today about sponsorship. We have heard mentoring and coaching for decades, how the importance of selecting a mentor and the importance of being vulnerable and being coachable, just placing ourselves in that coaching position. And that place of sponsorship, you really noted this importance of being willing or having people that are willing to say your name, and you being willing to say their name at the table. And for me, if I were to synthesize my key takeaway from your wonderful hour, is that you have particularly laid your vulnerabilities as a leader out for us, which has transformed us, and it has strengthened us in the way to personalize our own vulnerabilities and to seek out that sponsorship of self as well. We have to sponsor ourselves. And as you didn't say that, but you said that in everything that you presented.
Yes.
You said that. You are advocating for self. And I always loop this back to Dr. Elder, who has taught us within our incredible programs at National University, adults advocate for self. We don't really know how to do that as children, but we learn that as adults, and specifically talking about at the doctorate level, learning how to say a little pushback here. This is my study, and this is what I need to get out of this. So we present you with the remarkable Donna Elder Inspired Leader Award, Dr. Williams, today. It will be sent to your home. It is a beautiful reminder of who you are to us and our appreciation of who you are. There is a wonderful history behind the Donna Elder Inspired Leader Award that we would love to hear from Donna Elder briefly. Donna, if you would like to just share the story behind this amazing award and how it came to be, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Terry. Marguerite, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation, and you really shared such important parts of leadership, of being able to be resilient and to step up and to advocate. And so that the award, I'm so humbled by the award. A group of colleagues did this without me knowing it. I was so humbled and continue to be humbled. And the award really recognizes courageous leaders who step up, courageous women leaders who step up and do things that make a change over time. And the thing that probably one of the things that was recognized most for this was my work with Rotary. And it came about in some of the same ways that you talked about, some of the same ways that Dr. St. Louis talked about, and Scott this morning in his introduction of inclusion. So what happened was I was a member of our local Rotary Club. At that point, it was an all-male membership. They did not allow women. But things were changing in communities. They were becoming women leaders in positions that had male roles. And so memberships in a lot of Rotary clubs were declining. And they invited me a couple of times to speak. And then sort of asked me, well, why don't you just come to have lunch with us? And then eventually they said, we want you to be a member. And I said, well, I can't be because it's a male organization. They said, let's try it and see what happens. So we did apply for membership. I applied under my name, and all of these men supported it. We did really well for about 9 months until the district governor came and figured out that we had a woman that had membership, which of course was not allowed. International Rotary basically told the club they had to take away my membership or they would lose their Rotary status. So I was not involved. The men decided to lose their Rotary status. We went all the way to the Supreme Court, both in California and the US. And it was determined that Rotary had to admit women, that it was a business organization and could not exclude because of gender. And this is, in all diversity of making things more inclusive. And I think the courage that those men had was so important in making a change in the better. And in your talk today, Marguerite, you also talked about things that you did, and you stood up in ways that may not have been what people, necessarily would have done, like saying to the superintendent, it's your choice, and I need to do X, Y, and Z rather than being responsive. And that's courageous leadership. And I think there's probably 3 things that I would think about and say to everyone and about leadership and what we do to be those inspirational leaders. And one is that mentorship and sponsorship of others, to make the leaders in our organizations more diverse and providing to be courageous and stand up when you see wrongs and be able to take courageous action, which may not always lead to the best end for you personally, such as losing a job or doing something, but sometimes you do just need to, take that stand. And the other is inclusive. I think we have to be collaborative and inclusive and be able to have others all have a say at the table, whatever that is. And no matter what role you're in, you can be a leader. And to cultivate that and help people see how they do that through mentorship and sponsorship. And I am so thrilled, Marguerite, that you are receiving this award. And we enjoyed your talk this morning. And again, I am so humbled that this award is given every year in my name.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elder. And Dr. Elder is so humbled, we would have never known this story, but her wonderful friend who was with us, colleague at National University, shared that story with us. And so we only learned from another that this had occurred. And so often that's the case. So Dr. Williams, I have sent you an email. I will look for your preferred address. I'm going to use your term preferred. I've already sent that to you. And so we'll look for that and it will be delivered to your home. Thank you. We're giving you a round of applause. We're going back to Dr. Ebrick's round of applause, and so grateful for you today. And we're transformed by your story. Thank you for encouraging us. Thank you for sponsoring us. You didn't sponsor our names, but we feel sponsored by you. Thank you so much. And please give your 5 beautiful grandkids our love, and thank your husband from us for sharing you with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marcos. I am extremely excited to receive the Donna Elder Award. When I got this email, it came at the right time. A time I was dealing with a challenge, and I was just so deeply inspired to even have this opportunity. So I just want to thank you, thank National University. National University has been a part of my life for over 10 plus years, and I am just so blessed to have this opportunity and to be here with all of you today. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Marguerite. We'll see you soon. Thank you. All right, everyone. Dr. Padover, we will take a 10-minute break.